Russia's weapons production has actually increased dramatically despite Western sanctions, report says.
Here's a summary of the article.
Western sanctions have failed to undermine Russia's weapons production, and Moscow has even managed to ramp up the manufacturing of key weapons to fuel its war against Ukraine, according to a new report by a London-based think tank. Although the US and its partners have touted an array of sanctions over the past 2 years to choke off Moscow's access to key parts needed to build weapons, Russia has dramatically increased the production of artillery rounds, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles and drones since its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, according to the report. Russia's stock of Iskander ballistic missiles also has increased dramatically, from about 50 before the invasion to 180, even though Russia has launched large numbers of the missiles on the battlefield, it said. The expansion of Russia's weapons production offers clear evidence that thousands of Western sanctions have proved ineffective, the report said. The U.S. Treasury Department this month announced a new set of sanctions over Russia's invasion of Ukraine, including penalties for foreign banks that deal with Russia's economy and restrictions to block the export of certain U.S.-made software and IT services to Russia. The authors of the report argue that it is still possible for the U.S. and its allies to choke off the supply or prohibitively raise the cost of electronic components, machine tooling and raw materials needed for Russia's weapons production. There are multiple stages throughout the production process where intervention, both overt and covert, can cause delay, the degradation in quality, or a serious increase in cost to Russia's arms production, the report said.
This post received a score of 6,200, with an upvote ratio of 88%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
No shot. Are you telling me the Russians have increased their weapons production? In war? Who would have guessed? Not me.
Russia was always going to increase their weapons production. The big question is how much would it have increased without the sanctions in place versus with the sanctions in place. At the least, the sanctions make it slower and divert resources away from the civilian sector.
And what is the quality of said production? That's also another thing to consider.
And what are they giving up to do it? How sustainable before one kind of collapse or another? War economies hurt.
I'd imagine China is largely involved, which could backfire on the Russians. While they are somewhat allies, the people in charge of the CCP strike me as the kind that would stab people in the back if necessary. China is no one's friend, neither is Russia. Their alliance is them shaking hands with one hand, while holding a knife behind their backs with the other. They'll turn on each other the instant they think they see an opening.
At face value, Russia is having what's left of its already poorly maintained military destroyed to force NATO to commit resources. China can use this, potentially for military objectives, but mostly as a bargaining tool for trade issues. For them the cost is some excess, and the upside is a return to the unequal trade arrangements from pre-2015. They're not doing it because they're best friends, they just have similar needs.
China is seeing two of their rivals, NATO and Russia, deplete their militaries while China builds theirs.
NATO isn't depleting their militaries. The money they send to Ukraine is to replace the military hardware that is sent. The money is spent mainly domestically on brand new equipment.
YTF would it decrease when they're in a war? Dumb headline.
Exactly this. No one understands that sanctions are not just an impact on weapon production, but the whole economy. If you want to bring up sanctions in regards to weapon production, you need to also identify every other aspect of the economy in Russia that sanctions affect. It's not crazy to assume during wartime resources would be redirected to maintain weapons production.
That last sentence sums it up so well. It doesn't matter if your cruise missiles cost 3x more if you need them 10x more now.
Also to remember that if they pay more now they'll burn their cash reserves out and eventually the flow falls out of the economy once the point of no return is reached.
In this case Russians will start to work for food, but war will not stop. In case you want results with sanctioning Russia you need total trading embargo with country of shit and slaves.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.